Who'd have thought a hardened, wealthy man, suffocating under the weight of his sorrow, would encounter a tearful girl at his wife's resting place, only to unearth a revelation that upends his entire reality? What would you do if a stranger carried the key to a history you'd never suspected? Meet James Carver and Emily Reed, a 35-minute odyssey of enigma. Pain and renewal lies ahead. A man with a broken spirit, a girl with a buried truth. Their lives intersect in a twist no one saw coming. Stay tuned as we move from quiet mourning to an unshakable tie. This tale will hold you captive until its final breath. Consider this. Leave one word in the comments. Would you believe a child who says they know your past? I'll check every reply. Subscribe now. This is a story you won't shake off. A damp fog pressed against James's skin as he stood motionless, his breathing faint, his heart hammering beneath his sternum. The graveyard, once his sanctuary, now felt eerily unfamiliar. The young girl before him stayed still, her tiny hands clutching the slick headstone, as if letting go might plunge her into shadow. Her shivering, hunched form deepened the disquiet stirring within him. "Catherine Carver is my mother," she declared, her words drifting like a ghost, coiling around him, constricting like a chain. "That can't be," he rasped, his voice a faint murmur. She looked up, her wide eyes gleaming with a weight too heavy for her youth. Something off, something tangible. "I'm telling the truth," she whispered, her tone fracturing. And though his reason screamed this wasn't his to fix, a strange, piercing ache bloomed in his chest. He took her in. She was small, maybe 7 or 8, her thin dress drenched and clinging to her frame, outlining the fragile curve of her shoulders. She seemed breakable, far too delicate to be left alone. "Who dropped you here?" His voice eased, unnoticed by him. "No one," she breathed. "Where's your father?" Emily paused. "I don't know." A thick, stifling quiet settled between them. James's fingers flexed at his side. This wasn't his fight. He didn't pause for strangers, didn't meddle in their lives. He'd spent years pushing people away. Yet something about this girl, the way she gripped Catherine's stone like it was her last link to existence, anchored him in place. The rain softened XW, but the air stayed heavy. She shook harder. Without a thought, he shed his jacket, draping it gently over her slight shoulders. She flinched, then drew the fabric closer. "You can't stay out here," he said, his voice low. "Come with me." Her big eyes met his, probing, for trust, for fear. Moments stretched endlessly, then she nodded faintly. James released a breath he hadn't known he held, offering his hand. Her cold fingers clasped his, and the drive home passed in silence. Emily sat curled in the passenger seat, swaddled in his jacket, wet hair plastered to her cheeks. She stared out the window, her face a mystery. James glanced at her now and then. Who was she? More pressing, why did she know Catherine's name? The moist night air clung to him as he steered through deserted streets, his thoughts a tangled storm. Beside him, Emily stayed huddled, gazing at the world streaking by. She'd barely spoken since the cemetery, and James hadn't pushed. Her words rang in his mind. "Catherine Carver is my mother." It couldn't be. Catherine had never carried a child. They'd never broached the subject, never dreamed of it. Yet the way Emily held that gravestone, as if it tethered her to someone vital, echoed his own loss too keenly. His hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles blanching. He didn't know why he'd brought her along. This wasn't his burden. But there she was. He stole a look. She was motionless, too quiet. "How old are you?" he asked, cutting the stillness. Emily hesitated. 7. 7. Born 2 years after Catherine's death. She'd have been 5 when she lost her mother, whoever that was. "Where did you live before?" he pressed. Emily's fingers gripped the jacket's hem. "With Catherine," she said, nodding slowly. The car slowed as they reached Carver Hall, its gates creaking apart. James pulled into the drive, the imposing estate rising ahead, a bastion of wealth, grandeur, and desolation. He killed the engine. For the first time since leaving, Emily stirred, her eyes sweeping the mansion. Then, oddly, she didn't seem daunted or lost. She seemed at ease, as if she'd been here before. A chill unfurled in James's gut. He stepped out, rounding to her door. "Come on." Emily lingered, then took his hand, her small fingers nestling into his. A faint spark jolted through him, like a lock clicking shut. She followed him up the stone steps, her tread nearly soundless. Inside the grand entry, the chandelier's dim light threw long shadows across the polished floors. The air hung still, waiting. Emily edged forward, her hand grazing the staircase's wooden rail. In a voice soft as a sigh, she said, "This place, it's like her." James halted, unease prickling his spine. He turned stiffly to the girl in his foyer. "What?" His tone sharpened unwillingly. Emily avoided his eyes, breathing deeply, as if catching a trace only she could feel. "It's like Catherine," she said. The room grew denser. Even after 2 years, Catherine's scent, lilac and cedar, faintly lingered, unnoticed until now. "How do you know that?" James demanded, his gentleness gone. Emily faced him, expression blank, but her eyes held a secret he couldn't place. "Because she took me here." His heart thudded hard. His jaw parted, but words deserted him, a rare lapse. "She took me here." Catherine had never hinted at this child, never primed him for her. Yet Emily knew this house, knew Catherine, and stood here like she belonged. Silence bore down, heavy on James's chest. Emily's fingers tightened on the jacket. "Can I stay?" she asked abruptly, her voice frail, unsure. Something cracked inside James. He'd spent years believing Catherine was his only light, that her loss left him empty. But here was a girl with a piece of Catherine in her, a girl with nowhere else. His throat closed. He didn't trust this, didn't trust himself, but seeing Emily's slight form in his vast, lonely home, he couldn't turn her away. Not yet. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You can stay tonight," he said gruffly. "Tomorrow we figure out who you are." Emily nodded once, as if expecting it, and climbed the stairs quietly. James felt this was only the start. Deep down, he sensed the truth. He just wasn't ready to face it. Who is Emily? What's she hiding? Comment below. Morning light seeped weakly through Carver Hall's tall windows, spilling gold across the gleaming wood. Despite the warmth, a cold restlessness gnawed at James. Sleep had dodged him, his mind looping who was Emily and how did she know Catherine. From his leather chair he dialed a familiar number. The line buzzed twice. "This is Ethan," came the brisk voice of his investigator. "I need everything on a girl named Emily," James said, voice taut. A pause. "Last name?" James's jaw locked. "Don't have one." "Parents?" Another beat. "She says Catherine was her mother." Silence lingered too long. "That's not possible, is it?" Ethan asked. "Dig up everything," James shot back. "I'll get on it," Ethan said. "I'll call when I've got something." James set the phone down, fingers tapping restlessly. Ethan was on it, but the unease wouldn't settle. Emily wasn't just a lost kid. The way she'd gazed at him last night, like she knew him, the way she'd moved through the hall as if it were familiar. She wasn't pretending. She meant every word, and that rattled him most. The house lay quiet as he descended. In the sprawling library, Emily sat curled in a too-big chair, one of Catherine's old books in her lap, her small fingers tracing faded ink. His chest tightened. "You can read that?" he asked, breaking the hush. Emily looked up, startled. "Some," she admitted. "Who taught you?" She faltered. "Catherine," she whispered. A sting lanced through James. "That's not possible," he said. Emily bit her lip, silent. His mind scrambled for reason. "Did you meet her before she passed?" Emily shook her head. "She read to me every night." A shiver crawled down his spine. Catherine had never mentioned a child. James inhaled slowly. He needed distance from her stare, from Catherine's echo in her voice. "Stay here," he muttered, turning sharply. He barely caught Emily watching him leave. That night, With the house cloaked in stillness, James stood before a door untouched for 2 years, Catherine's study, a place he'd shunned since her death. His hand hovered, then turned the knob. Dust blanketed the shelves, the desk pristine, curtains drawn. Time had stalled here when Catherine faded. He stepped in, breath shallow. Why was he here? Some pull he couldn't name drew him. His gaze hit the locked desk drawer, Catherine's private nook. He'd never pried, but now, with Emily's claims, he had to know. He tugged, locked, his jaw set. Not tonight. He pulled harder, snapping the lock. The drawer creaked open. Inside, bundled letters, yellowed, but one stood out. An envelope with his name in Catherine's flowing script. His breath snagged. He stared, then, with unsteady hands, tore it open. His eyes skimmed the lines and his world tipped. James, if you're reading this, I never told you the truth. There's someone you must find, someone who needs you. Her name is Emily. His hands shook, the paper trembling. His pulse roared. Catherine knew, she'd always known. His ragged breath broke free. Why had she hidden this? Fear of his reaction, time slipping away, or had she meant to tell him and couldn't? He gripped the letter, creasing it. He'd thought he knew Catherine fully. No secrets. This shattered that. Emily wasn't just a stray. She was someone Catherine had entrusted to him. But why? And what now? The past's burden crushed his chest, choking him. For the first time since Catherine's death, he felt unmoored. The phone's sharp ring sliced through Carver Hall's silence. James stood in his shadowed study, clutching the receiver, pulse racing. His gut screamed this call would change it all. "James, sit down," Ethan said, voice calm but grim. James's jaw tightened. "Just say it." A pause. Emily's mother was Rachel Holt. The name hit like a fist. His grip hardened. Rachel Holt, Catherine's dearest friend. Her warmth had filled their early marriage, always by Catherine's side, always at ease. She'd been at their gatherings, their home, then vanished. "That's impossible," he said, voice faltering. "It's not," Ethan replied. "It's certain." Silence stretched. "Keep going," James forced out. Ethan exhaled. "Emily's not just Rachel's. She's yours." The floor tilted. His hold slipped, then steadied. "That's a lie." "It's not," Ethan said evenly. "DNA proves it. She's yours." James's breath caught. His daughter, and he'd never known. Catherine had known all along. The letter, Emily's ease in the house. It clicked. But instead of relief, rage flared. "Why didn't she tell me?" His voice cut. "I don't know," Ethan said. "But Catherine cared for her, kept her safe. She wanted you to know eventually." "But she didn't tell me," James snapped. "No," Ethan agreed. A harsh laugh broke from James. He raked a hand through his hair. Catherine had hidden his child, nurtured her in secret, never hinting. "Rachel's gone," Ethan added. James froze. "What?" "Died months ago. Illness. That's why Emily was alone. Catherine looked after her." His stomach knotted. Memories flickered. Catherine's unexplained absences, her evasions. She'd been with Emily, his daughter. He gripped the desk, swallowing hard. "What happened to Rachel?" "Terminal," Ethan said. "She knew her time was short, left Emily with Catherine for safety." His vision blurred. 2 years lost to grief, thinking he'd lost all. But he'd had a daughter, unknown. Catherine's letter. "Someone you must find." It was Emily. His hands shook as he set the phone down, Ethan's voice fading. He needed air. The study closed in, and he stumbled outside, the night's bite sharp on his skin. He had a daughter, a 7-year-old who'd never known him, while he'd lived oblivious. Catherine had raised her, loved her in his place. His chest burned. He looked up at the house, at Emily's lit window. She was there, alone. A girl who'd lost 2 mothers, left with only him. Duty weighed on him. This wasn't just a riddle anymore. It was his child, waiting unknowingly. Near midnight, James stood at Emily's doorway. She sat awake, clutching a library book. She didn't startle, as if expecting him. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. He stepped in, sitting on the bed's edge, the mattress dipping. Silence lingered, then he said, "Emily, I know the truth now." Her grip tightened. "The truth?" He nodded. "About your mother, Catherine, and me." She stayed silent, not probing. Maybe she'd always felt it. "You're my daughter," he said, the words odd but true. Emily's breath hitched, her eyes searching his for a trick, but found none. "I thought I was alone," she whispered, voice breaking. It cracked something in him. "You're not," he said softly. Her lips parted, unsure. So he reached out, gentle, hesitant, and when she fell into his arms, her face against his chest, he held her tight. For the first time in years, James Carver felt alive. And for the first time, Emily felt she belonged. Imagine finding a child you never knew. What would you do? Share below. The night air was crisp, laced with wet earth and a hint of lilac, Catherine's trace lingering in the garden. Emily sat on a stone bench, staring at the stars in silence. James watched from the terrace. He'd thought himself alone, that Catherine's death had emptied him. But tonight, seeing this girl he'd never known, he saw his error. Emily was his daughter, a truth too vast to grasp. A part of him had buried the past, believing nothing remained, but Catherine had left him Emily. He stepped forward, gravel crunching faintly. Emily didn't turn, lost in the cosmos, hands in her lap. "You like the stars?" His voice was soft. She twitched slightly, then glanced at him. "Catherine did," she murmured. "She said they're where loved ones go when they leave." His chest tightened. "She told you that?" Emily nodded. "Always." He exhaled slowly. Catherine lived in Emily's every word, every memory. He sat beside her, the bench cold. "Emily, I know who you are now." Her breath caught, her eyes meeting his, searching. "You do?" He nodded, throat tight. "You're not alone anymore." A tear traced her cheek. "Really?" He offered his hand. "Really?" She stared, as if this were a dream she feared to trust, then took it. James felt something shift, a feeling lost for years. He squeezed her hand, steadying them both. This was his second chance. The next morning, Carver Hall felt alive. For years, it had been a tomb to Catherine's absence, but now it breathed. In the dining room, Emily sat at the vast table, her small form dwarfed, her posture wary. She didn't fit this world of opulence. She'd known shadows, but no more. He cleared his throat. "Sleep well?" She nodded, eyes down. Silence stretched, then she asked, "What now?" James set his mug down. "We sort it out together." She looked up, probing. "You won't leave?" His chest ached at her fear. "I won't," he vowed. She exhaled and smiled faintly. That afternoon, James sat in his study, sifting through Catherine's unsent letters. Dozens, all to him, each a shard of truth. "I meant to tell you, but I feared you'd turn away. I thought I was sparing you both." His jaw clenched. Catherine had borne this alone, thinking it best, but she'd been wrong. Now it was his to mend. Outside, Emily played in Catherine's garden. The house felt less hollow. He was ready to move forward, with a daughter he'd never known but now cherished. That evening, Emily lingered at the library door. "Come in," he said. She stepped forward, eyes on the shelves. "Catherine read to me here," she said quietly. He swallowed hard. "Me too." Emily met his gaze, a spark of connection flaring. She sat across from him. "Can you read to me?" His heart paused. Catherine's laughter echoed in memory. He grabbed a book, its leather worn, and opened it. Once upon a time. As he read, Emily settled in, listening, just as she had with Catherine. Carver Hall felt like home again, and James, a father. For years, James believed wealth could mend all, that control kept life intact. He'd been wrong. No riches could reclaim time. No power could rewrite history. He'd mourned what was lost, certain Catherine's death ended him. But beside Emily, her fingers tracing the bench's lines, he saw he'd gained someone. He'd just been too grief-blind to see. Catherine's final gift wasn't fortune, but love. Emily sat quietly, stares glinting in her thoughtful eyes. "You're thinking of her, aren't you?" she asked softly, not turning. James breathed deep, the air cool. "Always," he said. She nodded, understanding. "Me too," she whispered. The silence was warm, shared between two who'd lost much but found something new in each other. "Do you miss her?" Emily's voice was faint. "More than anything," he replied. She paused. "She told me stories." He turned to her. "Stories." She nodded. "Before bed, about you." His breath snagged. "What'd she say?" "That you were tough, always busy, but not because you didn't care," she said. "You held too much inside, didn't know how to let go." A lump rose in James's throat. Catherine had known him too well. "She said you'd find me someday," Emily went on, "that I shouldn't fear, even if it took time." James shut his eyes, overwhelmed by Catherine's trust. She'd foreseen this, prepared Emily, believed in him when he hadn't known. He opened his eyes, looking at her. "She was right," he said. "I'm here now." Emily's fingers fidgeted with her dress, her breath shaky. "You're staying?" she asked. James faced her, hand over hers. "I am." Her lip trembled, as if bracing for loss she'd learned to expect. "Even if I'm not what you wanted?" His chest tightened. "Emily," he said, firm yet soft, "you're everything I didn't know I needed." Her breath hitched, tears welling, then she lunged, arms around him, face buried in his chest. James froze, then exhaled and held her close. She was small, fragile, yet so real. Something long-locked stirred within him. This was his second chance, to be more than a grieving widower, to be a father, to love again. He wouldn't lose it. Emily gripped his shirt, trembling. "I don't have to be alone?" Her voice muffled. "No," he whispered. "Never again." A sob broke from her, and he tightened his hold, silently promising to stay. Catherine had known this was his path. She'd given him Emily not as a burden, but a treasure. She'd trusted him to love her as she had. For the first time, James felt he wouldn't fail her. This was about Emily now, their future together. No more looking back, only forward. Inside that night, the house felt renewed, not changed, but full. Emily walked beside him, hand in his. She belonged here. At her door, she paused. "James?" she said softly. He looked down. "Yes?" Her fingers twisted her sleeves. "Will you read to me?" His breath caught. Catherine's bedtime tales had been their ritual. Now Emily offered him the role. He nodded. "Sure." She climbed into bed, pulling up the covers as he scanned the shelf. He found it, a worn book, Catherine's favorite. He sat beside her, opening it. She watched, expectant. "Once upon a time." As he read, Emily's eyes softened, her hands relaxing. By the chapter's end, she slept. James watched her, his heart full after years of emptiness. He brushed hair from her face, whispering, "Good night, Emily." Turning off the light, he stepped into the hall, knowing Catherine would approve. This wasn't just an end, it was a beginning. Does this spark thoughts of second chances? Share below. Subscribe. More stories await. Life bends unpredictably, like James's path. He'd spent years believing loss defined him, that nothing could fill Catherine's void. But life offered a second chance, one he nearly missed, lost in grief. We often do the same, letting old pain and regrets block what's ahead. We linger on what's gone, not what remains or awaits. What does James's story teach us? Embrace second chances. Life rarely follows our map. Happiness can come unbidden. Don't shut out the new. Release regrets. Holding the past won't alter it. Build what's now. Family isn't just blood, it's chosen. Love is about who stays when you need them. Healing takes time, but it's there. No matter how broken, life offers mending, if you allow it. What lesson strikes you most? Share below. Like, share and subscribe to our channel for more entertaining stories.